Hello, you wonderful moms out there. This is the Solve for Mom podcast, and I'm your host, Anoki Kapasi. I want to ask you, are you thinking about trying something new? Perhaps a new career, project, style of parenting, maybe a diet? Do you want to change, but you just don't know how? When you find yourself pivoting, do you feel in control, or do they come as a surprise to you and things just seem to happen to you all the time? If you're looking to make a big change, then you are not going to want to miss today's show. Let's get ourselves an extra cup of coffee and we can work on this together. Welcome to the Solve for Mom podcast. Here, you'll learn to customize your life to fit your passions. Hi, I'm Anoki Kapasi. I'm a mom, wife, and PhD-trained biomedical researcher. After a decade of designing a values-based life, I'm ready to show you how you can too. I'll help you take back control of your purpose and passions, guide you to strategically pivot, set goals, build knowledge and skills for your project, and practice critical thinking. If you're ready to go questing for your passions, level up your learning, and confidently pursue projects while still being the awesome mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this complex equation we call life, it's time to sharpen our pencils and our minds and solve for mom. A reset is a change that you're making in at least one area of your life that involves either starting over or starting something new. And really, this can be anything that's significant to you. It can be skills related, you could be moving, it could involve a reset in family life, hobbies, your passion projects, maybe you're resetting your health status, you could be going for a completely new look. There's even spiritual and emotional resets. For example, hitting reset on a relationship. We have financial resets. I really mean anything. The reason I'm talking about this today is because we all have to deal with resets at some point in our lives. So the question becomes, how do you handle these resets? Are you embracing these changes in your life and seeing them as opportunities? Or are you a big hot mess? And no shame there, because that has been me plenty of times, believe me, where you're constantly reacting to things that are happening to you instead of making events sort of work for you. Well, if you fall into that latter group, I know with the strategies that I share with you today, you can reset in any life project like a pro. And resets sound like this very big thing, but I promise you, it doesn't have to be that daunting. It's actually very doable, and it can be so empowering because when you think of it this way, it's one step closer towards doing your passion work. I've pivoted many times personally and professionally over, say, the last 15 years. And I think actually one day I'm going to relay what that looked like for me because it happened at various stages in my life. And they really did span that full gamut of examples that I listed earlier. My control in my resets has varied. So sometimes I can see a change coming and then plan for it, or it's my choice and I'm being very proactive about it. I've also had resets where something has happened unexpectedly and then I've had to roll with the punches, so to speak, sometimes gracefully and sometimes not so much. So today, the strategies I'm going to teach you are really applicable to any of these kinds of resets. This first one is a big one. Anytime there's a change in your life, you have to know what your mission is because you have to align the what with the why. At minimum, you need to get clear on what you're passionate about and what your purpose is. What you're passionate about, that is the what you will do part of this whole equation. And then your purpose, that's going to be the why you want to do this. You probably already know that I have a research background. Well, in research, scientists, we have to write grants that outline our proposed research. And if our idea and objectives meet, the funding organization's criteria, then the research project can receive funding. So one section of that grant is called the specific aims, which lists the exact objectives and questions that the proposed research is supposed to address. But sometimes grants will actually not be funded because what the researcher has proposed to do experimentally does not match the specific aims. It's not going to answer the research questions that they're proposing. That is exactly what we want to avoid when we plan our resets in our lives. Now, there are other things that you should also get clarity on, such as your values and your vision, and we'll definitely talk about this down the line on the show, but for now, let's just take a beginner stab at formulating your mission. This could be a mission that defines one area of your life, or it could be a life-spanning mission that overarches almost everything you do. And the reason that you need to know your mission and have your what align with your why is because that is the framework and the road that you have paved for every major decision in your life, including resets. That is how you're going to know if you even need to do this reset or not. And if you do, how to go about it. So to address the passion part of your mission, let's start thinking about things that you're interested in. What brings you joy? What skills have you worked on to develop? What engages your curiosity? The answers to questions like this can give you great insight into your passions. For example, I'm really passionate about critical thinking. And there have been many signs in my life that have led me to this. For one, most of my career has been dedicated to research. I conduct data analyses. I love curating things, looking for trends and seeing patterns. In my leisure time, I do puzzles and work on logic games. I apply my knowledge towards consulting, which includes a lot of problem solving. So in the same way, what is the big theme in your life? That's how you'll find your passions. Now, let's work on the purpose part of this equation. Think about the things that add meaning to your life. We actually talked a little bit about this in episode 1, so I'll link the episode in the show notes. You want to think about the reason that you're looking for a change. What do you like to do for others? And what are the outcomes that you're looking for? And also, what are the stakes if the outcome isn't met? Your purpose is something that affects your decision making beyond your personal or financial gain. Often you can just start with something that you want to do or that you do repeatedly in your life, and then ask, why do you do that? Or why is it important to you? And then you take that answer, and like an onion, you just keep peeling back the layers, asking why again. So you repeat that cycle until you strike gold. And you're actually going to be surprised how far you can go just asking why. Why? You actually might also be surprised by your final answer. I'd like you to go through this exercise. I don't know how many of you have little kids that like to ask the question why over and over and over, and finally you're just like, because I said so, right? The next time you start to feel a little annoyed, just remember, this is exactly what I'm asking you to do right now. Those little kiddos of yours, those are little critical thinking minds at work for you right there. So going back to my example, where my passion is critical thinking, my purpose, after I did this sort of Russian doll of whys, is to bring freedom and improve the mental well-being of mothers like me. That's what drives me in this podcast, because I feel really strongly about it. I know that when we strengthen critical thinking in mothers, then we're able to make decisions and pursue passion projects in a way that's very freeing, and it just brings us joy. So when you combine my passion and my purpose, the mission for Solve for Mom is to help mothers gain joy and freedom in their lives through life crafting and passion projects. Here's another example. It's totally hypothetical with a fictional person. Let's call her Ambitious Amber, okay? She's a mom and she spent several years training and working as a physical therapist. She gets a lot of satisfaction out of rehabilitating her patients back to health. She longs for her days to be outdoors, spending her time with her young children. She's always been interested in photography and reading books. She follows photography blogs and various Instagram accounts. I don't know, maybe this is one of you out there. Her passion seems to be photography and nature. She clearly values her time with her family, and her purpose is to improve people's physical fitness and body function. She could consider a reset by photographing and authoring books with the mission of teaching families or young kids how to get and maintain physical health through outdoor exploration. So it takes a lot of thinking, but it's not really hard to do. And that's what I want you to try to do now for your life and plan out your next reset. Once you are clear on your purpose and you know what you're passionate about, now you have to ask yourself, what specifically needs to happen for me to get this desired outcome? You have to make sure that what you plan to do aligns with your why and your objectives. Because if they don't align, then you're going to need a project or a goal reset. So that means you have to stop doing things that don't add value to your life. And you got to start doing more of the things, or even starting anew, things that feed into this mission of yours. So in my Solve for Mom example, the specific things that I talk about in episodes include life crafting, skill building, high performance strategies, and these are all specific actions that bring critical thinking to help you do your passion projects with the ultimate goal that it's going to bring you freedom and joy in your life. Let's say in my character's case, Amber, that she were being offered a promotion in her physical therapy job. Now she has a big decision to make, but if she's clear on her mission, then that will guide her decision. Perhaps one of her priorities is financial security. In that case, she will take on the change of this promoted position, and maybe pursuing other passions of hers like photography is something that she does perhaps as a secondary outlet. And that's totally possible, and I've done things like that many times as well. She might instead decide that it makes more sense to decline the promotion if it takes too much of her time and attention away from her family and her mission. I hope this is starting to make sense to you now, that once you align your actions and your passions with your purpose, you can really confidently decide whether to and what to reset. I would even suggest that before you even go on and listen to the next 2 things that I'm going to talk about, pause this episode and go and do that passion and purpose work. And once you're clear on that, then continue the rest of this episode. Another important thing about resets is learning to be creative or thinking outside the box. Simply put, this means that you're going to be able to think about things differently. You take a problem or an issue and then you approach it from a new angle or perspective with the goal that you're going to find a new solution. Many people actually think that scientific research is exclusively analytical thinking, but actually there is a lot of creative thinking, especially in laboratory-based research. We have to build assays before we can even measure the thing that we want to measure. We're constantly troubleshooting experiments, understanding why they didn't work. And then when we get unexpected results, we have to think about whether those are real results or artifact. What could have caused us to see what we saw? So in the same way, resets are like experiments that we do in our own life. And going about a reset requires creativity on your part. Out-of-the-box thinking is such an important tool to adopt in times of change, any change, because it's hard to see what lies ahead. So you're going to need to brainstorm or mind map, whatever your go-to way of doing this is. You want to go through all the possible scenarios, especially if you've never tried it before. You have my permission to go as unorthodox as you can. No holds barred. Actually, I'm going to insert a big asterisk. It's got to be legal. All right, so think about new skills or new locations, new people, new tools, a new approach. What is going to help you with this reset? This process can sometimes be uncomfortable. Guys, starting this podcast, I'm going to be honest with you, from someone who cherishes her privacy and has never engaged in social media. That's right, I've never done any social media. This has been a major reset for me. I brainstormed so many other possible avenues. I bounced so many ideas off my husband. I'm talking about years, because I kept coming back to this idea of putting my voice out there in a public forum, whether it be in a blog or videos or podcasting or whatever. And I just kept saying, I just can't do this. This is too uncomfortable. And slowly, everything else just kept getting crossed out, and I was left with this. And because it aligned so well with my family vision and my world vision, I have really had to work hard to get past this discomfort and let this podcast come to be. I'm still working through this discomfort. This is still relatively new, and it's very hard for me to create these episodes. So going back to our hypothetical friend Amber, She also infused her reset with a lot of creativity. She decided to learn new skills, perhaps photography and how to author books. She started networking with other families and her readers and other photographers. She even got creative to monetize her passion to replace her lost income. She also had to be creative in pulling out of a very conventional job and shifting into a more unconventional career. She creatively found a way to prioritize her family because she gets to build this new passion project into a business with her kids. So take it from me, when all of these pieces fall into place, it really does feel magical because you understand your mission, you found a way to reset and make it happen, and you're not scared because you know what your options are. And the last thing I want you to keep in your mind when you're doing a reset is that most things are reversible or replaceable. Almost every time I've made a pivot, I garnered confidence from knowing that the change doesn't have to be permanent. Yes, it's a reset, it's a big change, but it doesn't have to be permanent. Now, of course, there are exceptions like having a child or spending all of your savings or demolishing something completely, like maybe in a house rebuild or something. But even in the house case, you're mostly replacing it, hopefully with a new and improved house, or you're putting the land to better use. There will always be a brief period of discomfort, but usually you can reverse the course or pivot again. It may not be ideal, but you can do it. Think about it. Say you choose a new career. Who says you have to keep it? Say you reset your look stylistically, or a haircut, or you paint your house a new paint color. With some time, these things can be changed. Your hair will grow back. You can always repaint your house. I homeschool my children, and I was nervous about it at first, but I knew that if I ever needed to or wanted to, we could place them into public school. What if Amber moved to Southern California so that she could have access to more sunny hiking trails and outdoor spaces to photograph? If it doesn't work out, she can always revisit her plan as to where her family should be located. Now, I'm not advocating that you make decisions callously. I'm just saying that if it really isn't pushing you towards your mission, then you can always pivot again because the goal is to live in your purpose. I think you're going to find that these 3 approaches and mindsets are going to be critical for your resets. I know that resets can be jarring and uncomfortable. Just remember that making major changes can lead to good things. Becoming a mother was a major identity reset for all of us. It has redefined us in so many ways. So that's a reset you've already done. Going back to the drawing board is par for the course in scientific research. We do it all the time. We actually take it as a sign of progress because what that means is that you ruled out one path. It's one line of thinking that didn't serve you. I want you to strengthen the idea that you can handle change and also be open to knowing that things can change again. With these approaches, you can take on any reset from a stronger position. Start with aligning your passion and your purpose and work from there. And later, email me at hello@solveformom.com. Tell me how these strategies have worked for you. And remember that if you get stuck at any point along the way, I'm here every week with more strategies to help you on your passion project journey. I hope today's episode will help you pursue your next passion project. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and tell other ambitious mamas about it. Who knows, you might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review in Apple Podcasts. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. Thank you for making my show a part of your day. I hope you join me next week for another episode of the Solve for Mom podcast with Anoki Kapasi.